Suresh, you can do that maybe. Yep. Thank you. Okay. Literally, when I click connect to streaming, it feels like it's walking.
It says the video is private.
Oh, broadcast. Okay, we'll make it public. It's okay. Okay, I see the streaming happening. Feels like it's walking. Okay, I'm going to share the link here, guys, if somebody wants to see it. Deepika, check it again for me. 1 second. I put it under the WeeklyWed list. Okay.
Yes.
This is what yeah, it's live?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, awesome. I'm just sharing it here for people if they want it later. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Sudha Jamthe, and this is WeeklyWed at Business School of AI. This is our global speaker series, and I'm very happy to see my students from various different worlds come together and learn something new and drill deeper beyond what we have learned in any of our classes. So today I have a very special guest. Let me bring Bello Muhd. Hi, Bello. If you're able to come, yes. Hi, thank you for joining us. Yes. So Bello is going to be on air, showing his face only for the intro period, and then he's going to switch to showing us amazing stuff. So I want to make sure I've made you host so you can share your screen. Yes. Okay. So I've been talking to Bello for a while and trying to get him to talk to us about machine translation. And many of you here have taken AI courses, and you come from a variety of different backgrounds in building AI to make it happen, right? And now with LLM, we've looked at a lot of things we see everywhere is about summarization, a lot of chatbots, right? And we've covered a bunch of those here in WeeklyWed in my classes too. And one of the advanced topics, and people casually mention that as value from LLM is machine translation. And that's the whole idea of the internet and technology to shrink distances. But there are 7,000 plus languages in the world, and the LLM models have been trained by starting with English and Latin-based 5 or 7 languages. And so machine translation is important to bring AI to various different local countries, local languages. And that's what machine translation is about. And today we're going to drill deeper. So Bello, I want to know a little bit about your background. So before we get started, I'm going to show a video, one of the projects that you have worked on. So what I knew of Bello is a student studying mechanical engineering, and he's in final year. And he's doing this amazing stuff with LLMs and machine translation. So I was like, okay, maybe a side hobby. And then I found out that Bello has been working on AI and even the traditional AI with machine learning and everything since he was in high school. Let me find the screen that I want to share. Here we go, guys. So this is one of the projects Bello has worked in, a company called Unicorn Group from Nigeria, which built the first humanoid, Africa's first humanoid. The first humanoid is Sophie.
We are going to have robots working side by side with us and taking some of our jobs, especially if your job is easily automated, then you might lose it soon. Chances are high that your next customer care provider, house manager, doctor, or even your security guard might be a humanoid robot. Thanks to advancement in AI, companies and startups in different countries.
Okay, so I'm going to pause that because the ideas proposed usually when we hear about a technology is out there saying, it can replace a bunch of different jobs. I do not believe AI and robot can just replace doctors and all kinds of jobs that they were saying. There's a lot more of us who have to come together to make that happen. And we are not just going to automate things to replace us, but to make it work for the mundane things that we don't want to do. So that's why I wanted to just show you that was Africa's first humanoid robot. And you must have seen Sophie, who is the first humanoid robot, which is almost looks like a human and talks like a human and has like a skin texture. And if you see, by bringing the African robot, humanoid, it has features, it brings inclusion. And the only way you can bring inclusion is to do it ground up. So everybody who's looking at AI say, I want AI to look like me, talk like me, hear my accent, understand me, understand my culture, and do it with my nuance. So the first step towards that is to do machine translation. So Bello, so you are now an advisor to the Unicorn Group, which is one of the top companies in Africa, working on robots and interesting projects. So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get started?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's evening here. And sorry about my background noise. So,
We're not hearing anything. We're not hearing anything. So no apologies.
neighbors. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, my name is Bello, and I've been into machine learning for over 7 years now. Um, so I've worked in several projects, notably the first African humanoid robot. I lead the AI artificial intelligence team for building the robot. So uh, I get interested in machine learning at a very, very young age when I watched a movie. I don't know if some of us here might know about it. So it's a movie called Ex Machina. So I got very, very interested in how they how to develop intelligent system. Yeah.
And that is the
So
that is the movie that kind of inspired people to create more AI algorithm coming to life, and the science fiction version
yes,
of it, where we are
yes,
going with, at least we are seeing some tech companies going there. So we need to bring it to reality to do, useful stuff for us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I got inspired to build my own robot and or chat assistant, very intelligent. So since then I got introduced to computer when I was very early. So I started coding as soon as possible, and then I started with C++ as a programming language, and then after a year and a half, I switched to Python because it's the most used language if you want to get into AI. Yeah, so from there, I started delving deeper into machine learning. So then there wasn't LLM. LLM has not been in mainstream, and it has not been in application. So I get to create my own models, my own AI systems, train my own algorithms. I use PyTorch, and uh, then coming off large language model came in. I think the first paper by Google, right? So
Don't worry about the
so
comments. People are going to be
oh,
commenting.
okay.
Chatting. I'll fill
Okay.
them for you. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so from there, I get deeper. I can just say I've been on AI space. I've been catching up to AI, even though it's so rapid, you cannot get to know everything, especially in the AI space. So, but I've been on the space for such a long time that I've seen how it's evolved, how LLM works. Uh, yeah, and so from there, I got an invite to join a company called the Unicorn Group to build. They want to build the first African human robot, but now they want the AI system to be able to communicate and converse in our own African languages. So I got excited because it has been my goal to develop such a system. So from there, I pioneered that. I pioneered the group. We built our first translation systems covering at least 6 languages, multilingual translation covering at least 6 languages for Nigerian. So we build that, and then GPT-3, GPT-2, and GPT-3 came in, and we use the model to fine tune. And then GPT-2 was open sourced, so we use that to fine tune our model on our various languages. From there, we have been building a lot of AI languages, such as audio, speech recognition, text-to-speech systems, and also large language model. So currently, I am as an advisor to the company, and then I moved on to Awari. Awari is a Nigerian company, so they want to create the first large language model that covers African languages. So that's what we have been working on for the past, I guess, 2 to 3 months now. Yeah.
So our is the one that your minister from Nigeria had shown, and it is building, your own LLM. So one of the movements that I'm seeing is we hear about a lot about OpenAI, and then especially the news in tech is sensationalizing things and saying, okay, this is competing with Google, and Google is doing this, and this is from Microsoft. We hear about the big companies, right? And I find that in various pockets in Global South, from my other project in Global South in AI, I noticed that there are initiatives being built, and I heard that Nigeria is building, their own LLM. So that's done by Awari, and that is one of the companies you're working with right now, additional to your college, correct? Yeah. And you're still a student studying mechanical, yeah. Okay. Tell me a little bit about your work in Awari, because they are building, you said by building the humanoid robot, you ended up doing machine translation for the robot to interact and talk. And then Awari is building a full LLM. So it's not just machine translation, because now we're going to delve deeper into the machine translation. What does it take to build machine translation for a whole language that's not in the mainstream, right? So what does Awari do? With Awari, you're building up LLM ground up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah. So I can just say what Awari is doing is still the same with what Unicorn Group is working on. So before you create a robot, you want to have a conversational robot, right? So first it needs to communicate in your language, right? There's a speech, right? So you need to create a text-to-speech AI in the language that you want, right? The robot to speak. So there's speech recognition where you also need to train it. So, and also the main LLM, so which Unicorn is using GPT-3 currently for their natural language understanding AI. So, basically, Awari now focus on more larger aspect of it. So they want to, different ChatGPT have no inherent knowledge in African languages, most African languages. So ChatGPT can chat you in African language, but not all, and sometimes it's hallucinate, right? So we want to solve that gap, and then we want to fully customize it to African language. It's with African culture, right?
Yeah.
So so we have built our pipeline already, such as reinforcement learning, human feedback, and we are in the process of collecting large data sets to create that. So, but yeah, I guess in 1 to 2 months, there will be the first version of the LLM from Amharic deployed,
Yeah. And it
and
has
people can
been,
start testing it.
yeah, and there is published research that, we hear about, I think officially we spoke about this, right? ChatGPT, which is built on, GPT-3 or 2.5, supposed to talk 99 languages, right? And then if you're a native speaker and you go talk, then you start finding that either in AI, typically when there are gaps in the training data, AI typically does false positives and false negatives. But with LLM, it will confidently keep talking and make things up, and it hallucinates. So there's been published research, I'm just putting that here in the chat, guys, that the languages with which they have very less data used in the training of the LLM, which is all the languages of the world except 7 Latin-based languages. And then there are models for China separately, that is for Chinese languages. There's a lot of hallucination. So when you're talking, you don't know whether it is telling you the truth. So that is one of the reasons. I like the idea of this whole training with your native language for in a culture preserving way, but I'm going to park that because I want to get for you to show us the machine translation building that we are waiting here for. And for everyone here, I already said this, I think, before we went live. If you don't want to be in the recording, because we are recording this and streaming on YouTube, and we will share this widely. So if you don't want to be in the recording, don't come off on camera or don't speak up, because I will not be able to edit anything later. So, okay. But so you can add comments here and I'll bring that up. So for those of you who joined later, we did this whole introduction with Bello Muhd from Nigeria. And especially since this is an international group, when we are looking at AI gives us what we want, and it's kind of customized and fine-tuned to us in terms of recommendations and the feed that we see everywhere. So if you're not tuned into the African scene on the whole innovation that is happening in the LLM language space, it's mind-blowing for me. I'm so humbled every time I go to Masakane, which is a Slack group for African languages. So I'm very fascinated to hear about Nigeria taking the lead and building an LLM for African languages. We've heard from other speakers in the past who have created this for Fawn and some other languages. So what we are going to do today, next step, is to go deeper to understand what does it take to do machine translation. So if you are looking at, hey, I have a different language that I speak from the world, and I see the LLM hallucinating, how do I do that? Or if you're interested in learning LLM, as you've been with us at Business School of AI in my student community, and saying, okay, now I want to learn this machine translation, not just build chatbots, right? So that's where we are going. So what I'm going to do is, Bello has come up, built a Python, and when I shared this online, we had said fine-tuning with GPT-2, but when he was talking to me, he showed me a model. We've been looking at it for a while, which was based on GPT-2, but I think he's going to show one based on T5 model today. T5 is one of the models which is supposed to lend itself naturally for machine translation better. So what we are going to do is, the next step of it, I have a couple questions on how do you build, how do you, what are the key factors in building the machine translation? What are the steps to build machine translation? So the way I see it is, you have to start with the model, you have to start with the data, and then you're going to do tokenization. And then you get to the actual building, which is the fine tuning. This is the 4 steps, is my understanding. So I'm going to ask Bello about the model selection and tokenization, and then let him show you the Python. So that's the plan for rest of our session. So I just wanted to let you know. Does that make sense? Am I missing anything, Bello?
Oh, no.
Okay, so talk to us about mission. You have been in the space, and one of the things I love about how you have kind of built this is, coming from mechanical engineering. You did not say, "Oh, I'm not into programming. This is not my area." You just kind of got said, "Okay, I go join this company and go build robots. And now I want the robots to speak. And so now we make more language translation that looks like the interesting piece. And then you go to Avari and help them build that. And you told me that you have your own startup also in the works that's kind of in stealth, and you'll tell us, maybe at a later stage. So that's a good way of immersing and bringing what you want AI to do. So I just hope that my students take that lesson. So coming back to the starting point, is the starting point model selection, or is it tokenization to do machine translation?
Okay, hello. Can you come again? Sorry,
Yes.
I
So
missed
is
your
no
question.
problem. So the starting point for machine translation is always, what model do I work with? Because you were saying GPT-2 is open source. So I would assume you would also want to optimize on how much it costs you to go access it. And so you would pick something open source. So tell us, how do you do the model selection? What the model did you use that you're going to show us today? What was the thought process and decision points in picking a model?
Okay, yeah, perfect. So I think the first thing I will do when I have a task, especially in large language model, right, is to search such task in, I mean, everyone will go to Hugging Face, right? So Hugging Face provide it's a space that give you access to all of the open source language models that you need based on different tasks that you want to do. So in this case, I have a task of machine translation. So first thing that will come to my mind, because large language model is expensive to train. Not just to train is expensive to pre-train. So it's more or less expensive to fine-tune. I mean, you can even fine-tune with Google Colab, right? So first of all, I will look for first of all, I will look for a model that have been pre-trained for a particular domain. So for machine translation, why I choose T5 was because it has been pre-trained and also been trained to perform a lot of translation tasks and as well as summarization. So it's very, very suited to that particular task. I can quickly take the model and then feed my own data set and fine tune it. So and fine tune it. So which I can even do it in my Google Colab, or if I have a one RTX 3090, and then I can just build a pipeline and fine tune it, and which can just take like 1 or 2 hours, right? Sometimes. Yeah, so depending on your data set. So now, after you select the model, you have to keep in mind, okay, all my text on the tokenizer. So first thing first, you get the model that's good for a particular task, and then all of the models have tokenizers, right? So tokenizer is just a function, a model that allows you to convert your characters into tokens that your LLM will be able to crunch and understand. So
can I pause for a
yeah,
second?
so they trained it to
Sorry, can I pause for 1 minute? Because
okay.
one of the things I'm big on, because we have a variety of people at different stages of learning and experience and focus, that when we give a word out, I want to make sure everybody understands. Guys, is it useful to actually say what is a tokenizer, what does it do? Because from a very practical perspective, it's going to be a code model that he's just going to call. But does anybody need it? You can put it in the chat or DM me if you want, or show of hands. If it is useful, I will. Yeah. Okay. So the way LLM, large language models, look at language is as words. And they're not even like words when we're thinking, I'm talking English. So if I'm thinking, chatting with the chat GPT or anything in English, it's not even English words. it takes, because some words could be big, some words could be small, it takes all words in the vocabulary, which is a dictionary, and break it into what is called tokens, which is just pieces of words of equal size. And then it converts that into a number. And because everything finally is going to be only math and numbers that the brain of the algorithm understands. So that process of taking language, so when you're thinking about, I'm going to build machine translation, say for Bari language, I see Ine here, or Suresh has done some poster on Tamil language. And so when you're thinking of another language, which is hallucinating and is not as mainstream, then you need to take that language, which is basically text, books, writing, any form, right? And now you take the words and you need to chunk it into tokens. And if you look at any of these models like GPT-2 from OpenAI and T5 that Bello was saying, is pre-trained for translation tasks. So he's choosing T5. That comes from Google. There's another one called Llama, which is from Facebook. They're all available in open source, but they all they all come with their tokenizers, which means they have a piece of code that you can call, which will do this, right? If you feed language as words, it will chunk it into tokens. So, but if it doesn't know the sounds of your language, then the token will fail, right? So what will happen is, if your language has certain sounds that's not in English, and the tokenizer doesn't understand it, the way it will do, and this is a very interesting thing, it's called ang. Every time it sees a sound that it doesn't understand, the tokenizer will add that sound in and say, it's an ang, and it'll start collecting the sounds. So if your language is very far away from what is pre-trained in the model, then the tokenizer is not the right thing for you. So talk to us a little bit about the tokenizer picking exercise and what you went through.
Okay. So what I first do, okay, is it okay to share my notebook first, or I can also
Yes. No,
just
you can.
explain?
No, I just wanted people to know tokenizer selection, model selection. Now
Yeah. So
you know.
yeah.
And I'm going to
I
go
understand.
off
So
screen. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah. Okay. So so how I select the tokenizer after I select the model, right? So you can quickly just check the so for example, if I'm going to pick T5 as my model to fine tune, first of all, I will check the paper, right? How do they train this model, and what languages does it cover, right? So if I'm doing English and to French, so I will check, okay, how is this model pre-trained? Does it even contains French or English words and sentences? So if it does, that gives me a good sense that the tokenizer will take my text, English or French, right? So the next thing I will do, then I will load the tokenizer, right? When I load the tokenizer, I will then try to look at all the characters of my text, right? For a particular language. So, and then I will run it through the tokenizer and look for any unknown. So if there is an unknown, then I can bring a solution to that, right? What is it? Okay, so sometimes, a lot of the times, if you have a lot of unknowns and there is no extra tokens that you can map so that you will be able to also fine-tune your model, right? Then it means you have to change the model. You have to look for another model that will contain your character, right? Now, if for example, a particular language does not have the character language, if for example, a particular language that I'm using, there is no characters, there's an unknown characters, a lot of it on several models that I've found. Or if most of the models available have not been pre-trained on a particular language that I want to work with, it means you have to train your model from scratch. So which means you have to pre-train your own LLM model. Otherwise, so for example, in this task, I choose English to French as a sample data set, also perform some pre-processing that I will show you guys in a minute. So what I do is I looked at the sentences, right? And then I looked for unknowns characters, all the unknown characters. So what I just do, you can, so for example, on the last project that I worked on for translation task at Unicorn, covering our languages, African Nigerian languages. So some characters are missing, and it is expensive to pre-train such a language. So what do I do? Now, what I do is I search a lot of models that at least have extra tokens on their tokenizer that I can map my tokens. The unknown tokens, I can map them to extra tokens so that the tokenizer can understand, which thankfully T5 gave you that space. So you can map unknown characters to extra tokens, which will allow the LLM to understand because it already have those embeddings. It have embeddings for such extra tokens. So I can just set, okay, this extra token, I want you to represent this particular character that is not available on the tokens. So I think that help, and as well, if such characters are not much needed, you can just basically remove them.
Just to keep the, promise that we are not throwing any jargons, embeddings is the actual number, the mathematical matrix for every word. So you feed language, you ask words, and the words are chunked into tokens, and you pick the right tokenizer that works for you, pick the model that's doing this, and then the tokenizer actually converts that to you end up with numbers, right? That's what the ultimate LLM is going to take, the numbers, and that's the embedding, right? The relationship of every word to every other word in your is not just a number. So it's not just each word is chunked into tokens and the token as a number. The way LLMs work and they are able to do the translation, they are able to do a chat is because it understands the relation of every word or every token. So the selection of what you bring in as training data for your language is very, very important, because if you're talking some formal language and your data does not have formal language, or if it is a religious script of some kind that you're going to use for your translation, then that's what your fine-tuned LLM will finally do. So embeddings, in short, is the relationship of every word to every other word in mathematical form. Okay, back to you. You can share. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I can also add, so embeddings is just like it's a representation of a words, right? And also along with relationship between other words. So what LLM does is that it creates a space of each word. So I can just view it, for example, hello. So there will be a representation for a hello. So it's just a space that allow the model to understand each particular words and as well how it's related to other words.
Yeah.
So words that are similar together are going to be clustered closer together in a space, and words that are far from each other are going to be clustered in another space, same space, but more distance from different words. Yeah. So what that is why tokenizer is very important, right? Because if you change the number, the embeddings means that it will not understand what the words mean, right? So if I replace hello and then I put it as another words in the tokenizer, so it's going to get confused, right? It will not understand such a words, right? So that is what embedding is. So it's very crucial to make sure that all your words, the tokenizer can detect it.
Yep.
So after that, you select your model, you're good to go. Then, then you can now move on to processing your data, process it for training, right? So you process your data for training, and then Hugging Face, very easy, quickly give you a library that you can train your own model. So all you have to do is to make sure that your tokenizer is ready, your model is ready, and then your words, the data set that you have, its tokenizer can tokenize it. And then that's all. Then you just need a GPU, the environment, and you can train your own model. So I think if there's any question or any clarifications that you guys need me to do before I move on to the notebook.
So I've just written the steps here. So we've talked about model selection, then tokenizer selection, and then it's an iterative process that you might say this model doesn't work and you pick another model.
Yeah.
And then you go to the actual data set. We are not today doing a session on how to prepare your data, how to get language and convert that into data ready for training. So you're just going to use an existing data set that's available out there. There's a lot of data sets, or you have prepared data sets, right? And then the fourth step is fine-tuning the model, which is teaching the model your language, right? That's from your data set. So you're going to move to that. Okay, any questions, guys? You can add on the chat if you don't want to be on the camera. Otherwise, we will see the notebook. Yeah. Okay. I think we are eager to see your notebook. So
Okay. So
the
let
one,
me.
sorry, I just want to add one more thing. People tend to think, because even when you said your background, you were like, I taught myself C++, and then I taught myself Python. So people tend to think that the starting point is Python and you need to learn that and then get to this, right? And there are many ready notebooks that's available. And I'm hoping you will put your notebook on open source for us to go play with this after this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So let me share my screen.
Not seeing your screen yet. Yes, we are seeing it now.
Okay. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So let me okay. So I mean, I can just assume that a lot of us are familiar with programming, right? Or Python also. So so this is our first step. What I just do here, I load the datasets, So this is just a library that allow me to load open source data. So
Yeah.
if there is an open source data available on Hugging Face, you can just quickly load it to perform your training. Or if you want to, if you want to get such particular data set.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy to load that.
Yeah.
And then from transformers, import the calculator for sig-to-sig. So this is just so what this does is it collates your data. So what it means, if you have before you feed to your model, it accepts batches of data of the same length, right? So, but words, sentences have different lengths, right? So what data collector does is that it's so what data collect so what data collector does is just that it collates and pad your data to a fixed length of size so that your model can be able to train it in batch. So as well, if anyone has a question or trouble understanding, you can just speak up and then I can explain even more. But so I will assume that all of us are following. Yeah.
So you actually are
So
pointing to the data set, or you downloaded the data set somewhere?
sorry?
You said you got the data set from open source. Did
Yeah.
it
Hugging
is
Face.
data set is also on Hugging Face. The model is on Hugging
Yes,
Face.
yes,
You're just pointing to it.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
If
But
it's
this will
your own,
give you,
if it's your own
yes.
data set. Sorry, what were you saying?
So if it's your own data, you will just follow the same process. You don't need to use the data set. You can
Yep.
just pre-process your data and then you can load it. So, okay, so there is also another library that allows you to load from your CSV. So
Yep.
if you have, for example, English and then French in a CSV format, you can just use dataset dot from CSV, and then
Yep.
you can load it from CSV so that you can have a data set because you want to use the data set library
Yep.
to perform your training and pre-processing as well.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So this is where we will load the model, and this is where we will load. This is the library we will use to model we will use to load our tokenizer. And then this is our training argument. And then this is our trainer. So the trainer module allows us to train our model. So this allow me to load the model. We can quickly do it here.
So
Right.
anybody who wants to follow along, once they get your notebook and just run each chunk. So you've just loaded the data right now, right? You
Yeah.
did the run. If they know enough the Python to read a notebook, that's enough at this point, I think.
Sorry, can you come again?
No, I think if you know enough Python to be able to run a collab and run
Yeah,
the step,
exactly.
that's enough. Yeah.
So I will just install the requirements that are needed to load this. So I just want us to make sure that everything works, even up to the training stage, and
Yep.
then we can perform testing.
Yep.
So I will just wait for it to install.
So at this point, you have actually selected the model and the data set. You're not doing any pre-training, right? You're just using the data set for fine-tuning. What you're showing us is fine-tuning.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So I've already selected my model T5. So, okay, so let me share you guys something again. I know maybe a lot of us have been working on it. So if you just
Yes.
go to Hugging Face, you can see a lot of models, and they will give you even a quick start to run it. But of course, if you want to go more advanced, there's more advanced method for efficient training and a lot of it. So let me quickly share my screen.
So the question here in the chat, can you use your own CSV and the same dataset function? Yeah, we'll call that CSV file. Yeah. Bello, you're on mute, right?
Oh, sorry. So I just want to. Okay. Just 1 second. Okay. So just a minute.
So you can walk us through the CSV, not the CSV, the Python notebook, each segment, what it is doing. If you don't want to do this live, that's okay. Show us each segment what it is doing, because then
Yeah.
there might be libraries missing on your end. When somebody else runs it, it might not be the same thing, right?
Yes. I just wanted to show us where we got the data set, as well as the model where I do my selection of models and all of that.
So you're going to
So
you're picking a French data set, right?
yeah,
English to French data set from Hugging Face is what you have picked.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll get you guys this notebook on open source, and you can make your own copy on Collab and run it. Just practice along what we are doing with the same data set for English to French if you want, and then you can use your own data set. But the same data set function will call any data set. It's just where you're going to point to pick the data from. So it's fine.
Okay, so this is the Hugging Face library, Transformer Hugging Face library. If you go your task, what's your task? It's translation, which are the text models. So they have different models, vision models, audio models, video models as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So I can quickly go, you can see a lot of models here, right? Uh, which you can check. So this is BART model. So they will give you overview. You can go to the research paper and all of that, and even example how you will run it. And also they will give you a blog post on how you can use it. So in this case, we are using T5. So this is where I select my models, right? You can see a lot of open source models from here. You can see Llama 3, Llama 2, and a lot. So in this case, I select T5 because it's small and it will just show us quickly how to train it. So such as Llama, it's big models and all of that. So it will not fit on Google Colab GPU. So I would just rather stick to small model and as well as but better and efficient. So I will just go back
There is a question.
to.
Sorry, Bello, there's a question in the chat. How big is the data set? Is it parallel sentences?
Okay, so how big is the data set? So is it the data set we're using? If it is the data set, we will look at it now. So we'll go back to our code base. But yeah, mostly that is how I check the models I will use. And as well, you can stay if you're on Twitter, you can see every new models that have been open sourced. and then Hugging Face, I think within 2 or 3 days or 4, they will integrate it on the Hugging Face library. Yeah. So this is where we load our libraries that we're going to use for our tasks. And then so we are using about 100,000 data sets. So yeah, so for a machine translation, or I can say LLM in a whole, you really, really need big data, right? At least to train your model. So for fine tuning, sometimes you don't need much, but at least you should have more data set for training your AI model, especially generative AI. They are very, very data hungry. Yeah. So it loads and
So
then
we had a previous speaker called Abhinaya Mahendran who works on Tamil language from India. She had actually told us we need at least 50,000 language
yeah,
minimum, at a minimum, to get some decent.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes 20,000, 30,000 data sets will do. But if you want to make it more good, I can even suggest you even go more, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, right? So I load the model. It's 242 MB. So this is just a T5 small, and you can see it's already about 242 megabytes of size. So, and then I will load our data set. So I just load the data set from Hugging Face library. So if you want me to show you how I do that, I can also do that. So otherwise, I will just move forward. So this is the data set, the training set, test set. Then we have the number of rows. We have about 114,000 data set. So if you want to go deeper, you can just load this. Then you can check the rows. So you can see how it's formatted, right? It's translation English, then French. This is its translation. So you already know how it's formatted, how the data is formatted, in case you want to perform preprocessing. So, okay. So the next thing now is the preprocessing of our text, right? So let me give you example of how you will load your model from CSV, right? So let's assume we have about this. Oh, let's just do this. As so this is like this is a CSV. So all you have to do is to load it from CSV. That's all. You can load it back. You can get your model back. Okay, so I guess I can just do this. Just see. Should do that. Okay, so I will load it. I just want to give us an example. Uh-huh.
Yeah, this would be much better if we had a whole hands-on with the
Yeah, okay.
right? Yeah. So now we have done the train from the same data set.
Uh-huh.
So you see the pairs, right? What do I care for? What do I care for other people? What kind of question, like a pair choice of data set is that? Okay, now
Okay,
you've
so
trained.
sorry.
No, now you've done the training.
Yeah. No, I haven't done the training. This is okay. So I guess I just wanted to give example of how to load from
So you're
CSV.
still doing the data set function on loading or loading from
Yeah,
CSV.
so let me just do something. Uh let's see. So for example, this is just one column. So I can just load it back to data frame, just this. Sorry, guys. Okay, so okay, but if you have your data CSV data set, you can use the data set that's from CSV and then you can load it, you can convert it to your data set format, right? But if we want to do it, I will just add it on the code and then I'll share it. I will load a simple CSV and then I'll convert it to data frame. So what I just do here is I pre-process the data. I extract unknowns to see, okay, what are the unknowns and what are not the unknowns, right? So this is just a function that helps us do that. And then this function allows us to remove unknown characters. So in this case, because it's French, I just decided to remove every sentence that have an unknown. So if it doesn't have an unknown, then we can leave it. So after that, and then I run it. Let me run that, and then
we are reaching the end of the hour. If anybody has any questions? So I see questions about the data. People are talking about different languages that they are interested. So you can look at Hugging Face. One person wanted Tamil and Hebrew. So I just shared the Tamil data set from Hugging Face. I'm sure Hebrew data set will exist also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have about 45 unknown characters. If you can check it here, these are all the characters that T5 tokenizer does not support, right? From our French language. So what can we do about that? So like I said previously, what you can do if you still want to maintain these tokens, right? You can see from the tokenizer, you can map it. So you can see there are extra IDs, right? So all this, you can map each unknown token to extra ID so that you will be able to fine tune on those characters, and then you don't have to pre-train. But otherwise, you will have to train your tokenizer on such characters that have unknown, and then you will have to pre-train your model, which is very expensive. So yeah, that is the idea behind solving unknown characters, or you can just remove it. So in this case, I'm just going to remove it. So I am going to clean the data.
So you'll give us this notebook, right? So we can follow up.
Oh, yes.
So I see a lot of new people here. So if you came in by official registration from for WeeklyWed, then we will follow up and share this recording. And also we will give you the notebook. Yeah. Okay, I see a couple people asking for Bari. So Hugging Face does not have Bari, but Lanfrica site has Bari data set. That's the thing that I'm finding. I find work like from people like Bello fascinating, because they're kind of not assuming that somebody in technology industry has done this work for them and then just running it, but thinking about what needs to be done ground up and then contributing to the data set. So if you find your data set is not available, of course you can contribute. Sometimes it might be available, but it might not be the kind of that you want, right? What you want it to do, right?
Exactly.
So you might want to add to the data set. That's the whole world of Hugging Face. And there is another project called Aya from Cohere, which also has like hundreds of languages of the world, models and data set that's being contributed. Lanfrica has a whole bunch from African languages. So it's beautiful stuff. Okay, so I think we should wrap up. Can you stop the share?
Okay.
Thank you to you. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I always say that a good session should make us like learn something so that we can go do something with it and want to do more. So I think there's a lot of questions about data set. I think
Okay.
I said in the beginning that, finding data sets, preparing data sets, taking language and making into a data set is like a exercise. I don't see ready, material that teaches that. But so many of you like Bello, Ruth, Naduta, or who else I'm thinking? Abhinaya, I was mentioning Abhinaya. So many people have done this day in, day out. Right. So I think we need a session on getting the data ready from language, but we'll get to that, guys. I would recommend that, make sure that you're on the WeeklyWed list, bit.ly/WeeklyWed registration. If you came through that officially and didn't get like a Zoom forwarded to you, then you will get the follow-up. Try this notebook. And Bello, I'll follow up with you so you can put the notebook in open source. Would you be willing to answer questions, and maybe you can do another session as a follow-up at
Yeah,
another.
yes, yeah, definitely. Let me share it. Let me just share it to everyone so
Yeah.
that everyone can just
Yeah.
use it.
And we will share this link URL for this,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you guys can just go through it, through how you select your model and how you also select your maximum sequence. So this just so with this, it just shows you, okay, for each text, what are the longest? So where can I cut to save computation and as well your maximum sequence length, right? And then you just perform your pre-processing, you pre-process it, you have your metrics, and then, so I have trained it, I've done the training. If you guys also want the model, I can also share the model for us, and then we can start testing it.
Yeah. So I just shared the WeeklyWed community space right here on the chat. For those of you who are on YouTube, you need to be part of the WeeklyWed. So bit.ly/WeeklyWed registration. If you have signed up, then you will get the follow-up. We will share the links there. If you come to a community area, then you can try this. You can, once we share the collab, and tell us what you're working on, we can help each other. I find that more than me presenting or speakers presenting, the real learning happens when you're working with each other and figuring out, what one person is doing that is not readily available, and then you're kind of pushing the envelope, and so it's more fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we need to wrap up, Bello. This was very, very useful. I learned a lot. I was actually interrupting you in the middle to make sure that, we just don't throw words that everybody doesn't understand jargon. That's something that happens in AI world. So thank you for your patience and explaining everything. So model selection, tokenization, and tokenization doesn't work for your language, then go back to model selection. You iterate on that, and then you end up, then you get a collab like Bello was sharing, and then you can run the fine tuning. So for your language, so pre-training, fine tuning are the two pieces. Pre-training is having your LLM understand your language, which you test by whether the tokenizer works or improve the tokenizer till it gets to a comfortable place. The tokenizer model combination is what you select. Then you use the dataset function to kind of load a dataset. If you're lucky, it's readily available. If the world is lucky, you get to give them your dataset and, expand the whole edge of what we are doing with AI. Okay, so any other questions? Are you guys happy with this presentation? Give us feedback, and we will talk to you next week. So we do this every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is 5 p.m. Nigeria time and 6 o'clock Europe time. So I'm going to wrap up. First, I'm going to stop the recording on YouTube. And I just did the streaming on YouTube to just make sure we have the recording. So we will share the recording. We will share this collab. Come to the community place on businessschoolofai.teachable.com. And I will see you guys there, okay? Okay, I think the link I shared here is not correct, guys.
Thank you.
I'm just going to put the right link for the community here. Okay, thank you, guys. Business School of AI. Sorry, it's give me the, yeah, 1 second. Let me give you the community view before I close out so that you can get the URL for that. And you can come and try your work and talk to each other. So it's businessschoolofai.community.teachable.com. That's a mouthful. Or easiest thing, if you just follow, if you're on the WeeklyWed list, you will get the follow-up. Otherwise, follow Business School of AI. That's my community on LinkedIn, and we'll share everything, guys. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Bello. This was very, very helpful. Appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah, I'm going to stop the YouTube, guys. We've gone longer than our promised hour. Okay, thank you for everybody for your contribution, your questions, and I look forward to see what languages you're working on, what you're trying, what your response is. So talk to me in the community.